So most of the real estate investors that I've interviewed, well, they didn't start out as full-time real estate investors. In fact, a lot of my coworkers are real estate investors. Some of the most successful people I've interviewed own properties, but they also just love their day jobs, and they have no intention of devoting all of their time to dealing with the issues of being a hands-on investor. So Eachan Fletcher, who's the CEO of NestEgg, I believe is that type of investor. He's the former CTO of Expedia. He's an experienced rental property investor. And that experience is what led him to create NestEgg, which is a solution for property owners no matter the portfolio size. So welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So I saw that you did an interview with a friend of mine, Drew Myers from Geek Estate, and you said you wanted to create 1 million millionaires by 2025. Well, I love that. It's one of the things we've tried to do at Millionacres too. What does that sentence mean to you, and why rental property?
Yeah, totally. I in that order, that sentence to me just means helping people achieve their financial goals. There's 12 million mom and pop rental property investors in the US who see long-term rental real estate as their path to financial independence, and they're committed to that path. They want to get there as soon as possible. We want to help them accelerate that journey. And that leads us, I guess, into your second question there, and which is, hey, this is not my idea. I didn't come up with this. Our customers came up with this. Like, this is how they see their financial future and how they want to spend their time. We're just building the tools they need to be able to do that in a quicker, easier way that's going to get them to their goals sooner.
Well, let's talk about that, because one of the things that NestEgg does is it helps investors get positive cash flow more quickly by better management. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a key part of how you're going to achieve your goals more quickly on NestEgg than any other way, right? Typically, our customers are telling us they want to get to between 20 and 30 units. That's the size portfolio they have in mind when they set out, where they've done a little back of a napkin math and they figure, hey, that's the point at which I could quit my day job, right? And what slows them down is really two things. One is the operational side of it, just managing a property and all the time that takes out of an already busy life, how you need a property manager or some good tools for that, and I can talk to that. The other part is the cash flow gets tough. So by the time you have your second or third property on the books, the income is a lot less reliable than maybe it seems on the surface, and especially over COVID, a lot of people have seen that. And expenses can come out of nowhere, and they can be difficult to plan for, right? So everyone knows when your loan payment's due, everyone knows when your insurance is going to come up for renewal, and some of those more regular big ticket items. But then also you can never predict when you're going to get a leak under a sink, or a garage door that won't open, or an appliance that dies and needs replaced. So what we do, as well as providing an infrastructure for landlords to be able to get those problems fixed, quickly and easily without them having to go out and do anything, we also provide financing for those unexpected costs. So everything that happens in your rental property, we help you pay for in 6-month interest-free installment plans, and that allows you to push expenses out. And we give you early access to your future rental income, and so that gives you a lot more of your cash up front, right? So what we then see landlords doing with that is, with that extra cash bonus that they're getting from NestEgg, they can either put that into capital improvements in the property and then increase the amount of rent that they're able to get, or they can use that as the down payment for that next property, and then get one property closer to that goal earlier. And so that's how how we're delivering on the cash flow, is early access to your income, financing your expenses for you at no extra cost, and then helping you use that cash to grow the portfolio and quit your day job earlier.
Okay, so as I understand it, then you've got the one component, which is property management, the stuff that people hate, tenants, toilets, and termites. And then on the other side, you've got the financing end. So with the financing end, what are the interest rates on that? Like, how how is that paid back?
The interest rates are nothing, zero, zip.
Zero? How does that work?
So how that works is we charge a flat fee per unit per month to our landlords, right? So you pay us $29 per month per unit for access to our platform, and that covers unlimited lending to you. to finance your expenses. How the repayments work is because your rental income flows through our platform, we effectively deduct your repayments from your rent checks as the rent passes through our platform. So there's no other bills to pay, there's no payments to remember to make. It's all handled for you. And because there's no loan application, there's no credit inquiry, it doesn't affect your credit score. We are basically just setting up an installment plan and handling the repayments for you. And that way you keep a lot more of your rent checks every month while still being able to keep your property maintained.
Interesting. So what markets are you currently available in, and how are you expanding market by market?
Yeah, so we are now available in all 50 states, and we have complete coverage of our product in the top 50 odd, what my CFO likes to call the NFL cities. So we cover everything there. Some of the more rural areas, we're still building sort of good supply side coverage, the plumber, electrician type side, but we're very close to having no zip codes in the US we can't reach. Our financial services are available nationwide. There's no zip code we can't reach there today. Our growth strategy has just been find where there is where landlords are the most underserved, and deliver them a great experience. They come on, they stay on, and they tell their friends, and that's what we're looking for.
How do you go about getting those service providers onto your platform?
So I think it's easy once we're at the stage we're at now, because we've got a ton of landlords with tens of thousands of properties across the US that kind of need all the same regular maintenance that comes up all the time. So we can go out to market with a message like, hey, we're going to help you grow your contracting business, grow your sort of handyman business. That brings a lot of them on board. We're a better venue for them to fill up their schedules than some of the other options out there that they're on today, because everyone's charging them to show up, on their sites. We don't charge them anything, and so that's great for them. We have a pretty high bar though that they have to clear to come on board. So we do background checks that are kind of both sort of civil and criminal. We do insurance checks to make sure they have the right coverage and things in place for the worst case scenarios. And we make sure that for the trades that are eligible, we make sure that they have the right city licenses and permits and things that they need. And then once they're onboarded, every task that's completed on NestEgg by any contractor, we get instant feedback, like a little thumbs up, thumbs down from both the landlord and the tenant. And that helps us make sure that we're keeping a high bar for people to get on, and we're holding them to a high standard once they're part of the platform. And every time they do a job, they're either going to get good feedback and they're going to get more work from us, or if they get negative feedback, they'll get less work from us. And so that way, we're converging on the best possible experiences for our customers at all times.
Oh, that's fascinating. So is that feedback coming in through a mobile app?
Yeah. So there's an app. We have an app for contractors, an app for landlords, an app for tenants. The tenants use their app to pay their rent, chat with their landlord or us, that kind of stuff, and also to report maintenance issues. Super easy. They just snap a picture with their phone, type in a few words. Our system automatically figures out what's wrong, gives the landlord a kind of a maintenance report with some kind of approximate pricing. Landlords get that in the app. They can then approve it in the app, and then we send it out to the contractor app. One of the contractors will grab the job. Again, the app takes care of all the scheduling with the resident access, that kind of stuff. So there's no like, 50 phone call, phone tag going on. And, so it's all just taken care of smoothly. And then, after the job's complete, we take care of all the payment, invoicing. We create the expense reports that you need for tax time, nicely categorized. And then we also have a 14-day happiness guarantee, which means for 2 weeks after every job's completed, then our system automatically follows up with the tenant. We stay in touch to make sure the problem stays fixed and that nothing else has come up. And then if anything else comes up during that period of time, we make sure we make it right. And that's on top of whatever warranties and other periods that the contractors or the appliance vendors will apply directly. So we've just built a system that it helps the people who want to work together, which is, landlords and tenants and contractors each have a role to fill in this little triangle of happy housing. They all want to look after one another and do a good job and be paid fairly for it, whether that's rent or for your services. And we've just facilitated that and put a lot of the common conversations on rails so that it's easy and quick.
Nice. And I know that it's not just maintenance. It's also like the things that are routine, HVAC, inspections, snow removal, things like that. So those are all kind of like you can opt for like a snow removal contract if you live somewhere where that's an issue.
Yeah, that's right. So what we do is let's take Chicago, for example, with the market we launched in. In winter in Chicago, you need someone to clear the snow from around your and something that if you don't live in Chicago kind of might seem weird is the owner of a property is responsible for clearing the snow, not the person who lives there, right? And so that can often be a problem for landlords because some of them are not even in the same state as their property, so they end up having to be stuck with some sort of seasonal contract with like a big crew. So what we do is we break that up into per incident, like much more cost-effective per incident visits, and our system just tracks the weather. We figure out when there has been snow, when there's going to be snow. We figure out whether it's more than an inch or not. There's some rules about when you have to do it and when it's optional, and then we just push that through the app, and you can just set it on autopilot, and we'll just take care of it when it happens, and you don't pay anything if nothing needs done. And so we're kind of building a lot of those kind of set it and forget it maintenance features to make life easier for landlords. We do the same thing in summer seasons for yard work, especially in multifamilies where it's like, hey, there's 2, 4, 5 units there. Guess who's going to be taking care of the yard? No one. That's why, because everyone else expects everyone else to do it, right? So we've kind of partnered with a bunch of local contractors who we monitor the weather and then we just make sure that they're going at the right frequency to keep the yard looking great and well maintained and avoid problems cropping up. So we're trying to kind of take it more proactively. So you're kind of doing things when they're quick and easy and cheap to do, not when they blow up into a problem. Then suddenly it's time sensitive, it's urgent, and potentially a lot more expensive.
So this evolved out of your own situation, right? You were a CTO, as we mentioned, and you were a real estate investor. How did you grow your own portfolio? Yeah,
I think so. As you say, I started off struggling with the same things that our customers are struggling with, and while I was at Expedia, I was fortunate enough to be able to buy my first handful of rental properties during my time there. So did my co-founder Jeff. He used to run marketing, and then him and I were just having all of our water cooler conversations always got back to, oh, can you believe this happened? And oh, over the weekend I heard from this tenant, and oh, last night I was up late trying to find a guy for this, and and so that's my universal phone sign. Eventually, I tried all the other kind of apps and products that are out there for independent rental property investors and landlords, and I found that like a lot of them had really nice experiences for kind of all the early online stuff, like I can list a property, I can e-sign a lease, set up basic rent collection, that kind of stuff. But then those things you could kind of do for yourself anyway, mostly, right? It's nice to have them all in one place and tidy, but it's like once you actually have a tenant in place and you need to actually manage the property and deal with the issues that come up, there was just no help, and it was really just muddle through yourself, which is incredibly time consuming. And, when you have a demanding professional job or a family or both, you can't do that. So you end up in the hands of a property manager. They take about 8 to 12% of the rent, depending on how good a negotiator you are, I guess. And then it's done at arm's length. And when you think about it, most mom and pop landlords are making about 5 to 10% NOI. So if you're paying 8 to 12% management fees, you're basically losing money every month or netting out, overall. And, then really investing in real estate becomes only for the long-term play, right? You can never really unlock enough cash flow to provide yourself an income. And that's crazy. And that was one of our goals as well, is, get our landlords to a point where their properties are cash flowing, providing them an income, give them freedom, and then help them make more investments. And it wasn't until we realized once I tried every other app that was out there, and I realized how little support there was out there for mom and pops, that I decided, to build the next big thing for the segment.
Well, let's talk about building that next big thing, because one of the things I think is interesting is you and your co-founders, you started in 2017. You didn't have a big funding round until last year. So you kind of opted for that slow growth, which we don't always see with entrepreneurs these days. Yep. So why was that the right path for you? And what things did you kind of learn as you sort of built slowly and iterated?
Yeah, well, look, I think the reality is it's far more the rule than the exception. And you see it all the time. And I think every overnight success is really a tale of 1 to 5 years of real kind of ramen noodle bootstrapping grind, followed by finally getting the formula right, and then it takes off. And then people typically tell the story from that point on, right? And yes. I know that the founders of Airbnb are famous for being more forthright with their story than a lot of like unicorn founders would be. It's like, hey man, we spent years camping on other people's sofas trying to figure this thing out, and then finally it clicked, and then it took off, and then everyone's like, overnight success. Yeah, it's an overnight success that took us 3 years to make it overnight. So I think it's actually pretty common, and rightly so. I mean, I think especially when you're doing something new, right? I mean, no one before has built a product that automates all your home maintenance for rental properties, pays your rent in advance, and finances all your rental property inspections all in one nice sort of container. And so there's some kind of very new things we're doing to suggest that you could launch a product like this and throw it out there and then quickly scale up. I think is borderline irresponsible in terms of my view on innovation. I think it's much more appropriate to start off, with early adopters, testing, learning, figure out different ways of manifesting the value prop, and I think that's what we spent a lot of time doing. I think that's what all entrepreneurs spend time doing, whether it is deliberate. It's deliberate for me because I'm old and battle scarred, and I know how these things are done. And it's probably accidental for some because no one will give them any money until they've shown some basic traction and some basic product market fit. So they fight like hell, tooth and nail, to get a little bit of basic traction so they can kind of make a great investment case to early stage investors who see the potential from the early traction, right? And so, so I think that's kind of, I think we're a lot more typical a case. And we certainly felt like we were breaking some new ground here. And so we needed to take our time. We built a handful of different beta versions of the product, had a whole, a big group that we're super grateful to, many of whom are still customers today, who volunteered to kind of test the various versions we had, tell us what they liked, what they hated. And we did that over and over again over about 18 months. Until we figured out how the product should really work, in a way that delivers the benefits and makes sense to the user, right? And then once we're there, then we can talk to investors with confidence, right? It's like, look, we have a thing, people love it, we know it works, let's do some business, and there we go. So
I think that kind of makes sense.
Potentially dodging the question.
No, not at all.
But I think it is, yeah.
I think that one of the things that I heard with you talking about that is the advantage of having been a CTO, is that idea of knowing what it takes, knowing how you have to beta test over and over and over again. And, I think in this case, being battle scarred is a serious advantage because you are doing something that's a little different and brings together sort of like you mentioned, the payments, the online stuff with the stuff that really is, maintenance and all of that really very physical stuff. Yeah. So where are you seeing the most inquiries right now? Are you seeing, is it sort of tracking where we're seeing rental investment going and where people are going? Like, are you seeing a boom in the Sun Belt or anything like that? When you say inquiries, you mean just people looking for the product? That type of thing? Yeah. Okay, got it. Active investors. Right now, Texas is super hot. So Austin is rapidly getting, I think our 3 fastest growing markets are Austin, Dallas, and Houston. So
That's definitely blowing up. I think prices are great, rental yields are great. Rents are high. Property prices haven't yet grown as rapidly as rents have. So, there's good arbitrage there. Cost of capital's low, and it's, with more people feeling more confident making this type of investment. I think that's what's driving that. We're definitely still seeing super solid growth in sort of more of the Midwest as well, more north up where, we've always been in Chicago, and that's where we have the biggest footprint. So Florida is super huge for us too, and I'm not sure I have a great explanation for that. I think one of the issues, or I guess one of the advantages, or should we just say maybe it's a dynamic. It could be a plus or a minus. One of the dynamics of real estate is it tends to be a hyper-local business, right? Like if you're looking for a property manager, you're looking for someone within a few miles of where your property is. If you're looking for a maintenance person, you're looking for a maintenance person within a few miles of where your property is. So we have this kind of inherent advantage with the footprint that we have in the zip codes we have, and the fact that you can use our app anywhere. So we have customers who have properties in Chicago, properties in LA, properties in New England, and they can use our app to manage all of those under one simple interface where it's the same thing for everything, right? You can't find a property manager who can be your one property manager, because like your property manager, it's a very hyper-local business. So I think what that means is, who are we really competing with on the ground? I mean, it's different in different cities. And some cities have, a really mature local infrastructure of great property managers who are doing a pretty good job. And for winning those customers, it's about how much more money goes into their pockets and how much more control and insight they have over their portfolio, and how much more money they're going to get earlier, right? So the cash flowing side. And then some markets have not as great an infrastructure around property management, and then it's mostly people super dissatisfied and frustrated who wish they could do it for themselves because they hate the experience they're having, but they can't do it themselves. And then they come across us and they're like, I'll try it. There you go. I'm rambling a lot. You can edit me down, by the way. I'm perfectly fine with that.
No worries at all. How many users are on the platform?
About 7,500 now.
And is it single family rentals? Is it multifamily, short-term rentals? Is it all of those, or what is it predominantly?
So it is almost all single family and small multifamily. So the segment that we're going after, they tend not to invest in short-term rentals because you're dealing with a lot of people who are mostly young professionals. They've already maxed out their 401ks. They're looking to make other investments alongside, right? But at the same time, they don't want an investment that requires so much constant attention, right? And the guest turnover of a short-term rental is intimidating, right? A lot of the constant marketing and remarketing. So they sit in the long-term rental space, this segment. So it's actually interesting when you look at it. I was surprised to learn that the mom and pop landlords own over 90% of all the single family rentals in the US. And they own about, I think, 70-ish% of all the rental properties, right? So when you think about the giant corporate institutional investors and you imagine them having, they own all those big downtown skyscrapers, right? But, that's only a thin slice of how the country lives. So we've optimized our product for the 2 to 4 unit multifamily and the single family. That's what our system's built around servicing.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good point about the institutional landlords, because right now with like Invitation Homes and some of the big funds that are developing, you hear so much about that. But you're absolutely right. Most of the single family rentals in this country are owned by people who have
people like you and I.
Small portfolios, less than 10 properties in most cases. So if you're an investor, when do you implement NestEgg? Do you wait until you get the tenant and everything, or do you start earlier in the process?
People can adopt our platform at any time. So if you have an existing tenant, It's real simple just to invite them. They get a download link for the app, and then they can start dealing with communicating with you and paying their rent to you through our app. So there's really no right or wrong time to join. We recently, about 6 months ago, added tenant placement services onto our product. So we have a whole bunch of local leasing agents in most major US cities who are able to go out and actually find tenants for vacant units. As soon as a landlord has a vacancy or acquires a new unit, they need to get a tenant in there. That is the absolute best time to start with us, because we'll find someone, we'll find a great tenant. We guarantee all the tenants we place for 1 year. So if they break the lease within the first year, we'll replace them for free. And the cost of placing the tenant is, of course, spread out over the first 6 months of the lease. So, you make money right from the first day the person moves in, right? Whereas with most tenant finding services and brokers that you would meet on the street, they're going to take that whole first month's rent off you. And so you acquire a new unit, you're not seeing any income from that for possibly 90 days.
Interesting. So you're handling screening and background checks and all of that too?
Yep, absolutely. All of the above. So we'll go do all the property marketing. We'll handle all the showings and viewings. We'll screen and background check a handful of tenants. You will have your choice from a shortlist. You pick your tenant. We'll take care of putting together a sort of a lease that is compliant with whatever the riders and terms are that the relevant city needs to have in place. They're kind of lawyer approved. And then, the next time you hear from us, it's, here's your money.
Well, that kind of sounds like the dream. But with that, you mentioned lawyer approved, because certainly that's one of the things that we cover a lot is rental rules. They vary by state, by city, by locality. It's so much to manage, so much to be concerned about. Do you kind of have a team of lawyers that kind of has to keep track of all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the things that's difficult about, especially now that we're in all 50 states. I mean, it's a lot of different legislation. And, we also have a team of rental specialists who are available to answer questions for landlords. So, in our app, as well as being able to chat to your tenants and any of the contractors who are doing work for you, you can also chat to us. Then we have people whose role it is to make sure we're aware of what the various little rules and regulations and things are that you need to make sure you're compliant with. So it's one of the big sources of lack of confidence for landlords is, how do I know I'm doing the right things the right way? Is there anything I'm supposed to be doing that I don't even know about and it's going to bite me later? So we're here to answer all those questions and give them a clear steer. And generally, I think that the best, if I can give my sort of small piece of advice on that matter, I think anytime you end up trying to figure out what's the letter of the law on something, I think that's already a bad place to be, right? And I think that the best way is to treat everyone fairly and with respect, and provide a great residential experience to tenants. We provide tools to make that easy for landlords to do. We provide tools to make it super easy for tenants to always be paying rent on time. And we provide infrastructure that makes it easy to get good repair work done for fair prices. So as long as we're maximizing the good outcomes, and we're making that kind of landlord-tenant experience a real constructive, positive one, not like an adversarial, transactional one, then that is 90% of it right there. And I think that's it's always the best advice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's one of the reasons that we really feel on the Millionacres team that mom and pop landlords are important to communities, to the country as a whole, that there's real value in making things easier for people to build wealth that way. And also it's a better tenant experience than in some cases.
Yeah. And let me just add one thing to that. I mean, I it's like this, hopefully this is your good news moment for the week or whatever. But, I've had a few times where starting this company has kind of like renewed my faith in humanity, shall we say? And a lot of the landlords that we bring on board, there's a picture gets painted of landlords as kind of nasty, money grubbing, whatever. I don't know. And I'm sure there are plenty of not nice people who are landlords. I quite believe it. But my experience of trying to help landlords succeed and grow their portfolios and has meant that every single one I've met, they don't just look at their rental property as an investment. They look at it as a way that they are contributing to their communities, and they want to invest in a local community, and they want to provide a nice home that's good, where everything works and people are happy, and they feel like they're making a little bit of a difference in the world, right? And let's not get carried away, because no one's doing this entirely philanthropically, but nonetheless, I think that the prevailing attitude there is how can I make a bigger difference in other people's lives and provide them a happy home, which I think is probably not what you'd expect to hear, if you were slightly on the pessimistic side of this. So I feel like that's super encouraging, and that helps us build an app that's not focused on giving landlords tools to, whip their tenants into shape, and but actually giving them tools to have a more constructive, positive engagement and do more for them. And there's a real gap in the market for that, frankly.
I love that. Well, I think that's a perfect place to end things. Thank you so much for your time today. The site is NestEgg.rent.
.rent. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.